Slimehouse TV, myself Theo Kane, hope everybody is good, hope everybody's buzzing for Toy Talk Tuesday, and hold tight the Slime Alliance over on Patreon, the Patreon gang, if you're watching this a couple of weeks in advance. So in today's episode, I want to talk about this guy, Electroman from 1977 by Ideal, and initially I was just going to talk about this toy solely on its own, but then once I started like getting into like the planning of the episode and stuff, things kind of took a different direction, and I'm going to explain why throughout this video. Now, if you watch my previous video that I did recently talking about Doctor Who toys, you'll know that my dad recently dropped off a load of old 70s toys, because if you watch these videos, you know my dad's an old school toy collector. He's got lots of stuff in his own collection and stuff like that, and sometimes he passes me things so that I can put them in my collection and I can talk about them here on Toy Talk Tuesdays and Friday drops and just on Slimehouse All Figured Out episodes basically. And recently he dropped me a load of 70s toys off and this was in there. So he picked this up about 20 years ago. I remember when he got it. He got it from a shop called The Modeller's Loft down in Caterham, but he got it from a shop called The Modeller's Loft that is owned by Alan Hall. Now, back in the day, Alan Hall was like the go-to guy for Action Man advice. He was like a pure Action Man expert. He still is, but he released like a series of books back in the day, and they were like the definitive guide for all the information you would need to know about Action Man collecting, way before you could just go on the internet and find all that information for yourself. And he's got a shop, he's still got it to this day, and it specializes in Action Man style figures, Mego, $6 Million Man, and my dad got this from their mail order about 20 years ago, and I remember when it arrived. So this came out, like I said, in 1977, and it was around the time just after $6 Million Man, around the same time as Pulsar and stuff like that, and it was a time when these kind of like toys that are bigger than Action Man with lots of electronic interactive features that made them feel more futuristic and a bit more techy, they were really popular. He's about 16 inch tall, way bigger than an Action Man doll, and he's got a few different features, and this is the reason why I got into like the episode that I'm doing today. Now, whenever I do these episodes, you'll know that I like to make the toys work. If they're a figure or a toy or a game that requires batteries and has some kind of function, I'll always try and get them to work here on this show. And when I got this and I thought, oh, do you know what, I'm going to just do a whole Toy Talk Tuesday just about Electroman, I thought, do you know what, I at least want to get him working. I want to try and make him work. He's got a few different features. He has a light in his head that flashes. He has this little dial that you turn on the back that makes that light flash, and he's got a little sensor here in between his eyes so that he almost acts like a room guard. He reacts to light almost like an NES light gun for duck hunt, and if you walk past him he will flash and he will alert. He also has some little reflective discs that he's supposed to come with that my dad has got, but he just hasn't given me them yet. And he has a few different cool functions, and I obviously wanted to be able to make him work so that I could show you him working here on Slimehouse TV in this episode. But after putting batteries in him, I soon realised that he doesn't work. I don't know why. He is almost immaculate. Another interesting thing about this toy, which also makes me feel like it's such a factory fresh product, is that it came in this box. Now, I didn't actually know what this box was at the time. I had to speak to my friend Brian over at Pled Stallions and my friend Chance at Victory Comics just to get a bit of information as to why it came in a box like this, because I assumed it was some kind of display model and this is the shipper box that it would come in, because the actual box that this thing comes in is giant. There's two figures in this series. There's Electroman and there's the Terrible Zog, which is another fucking awesome monster figure that I would love to get at some point. So they both came in big boxes, both of them boxes that are bigger than this. So I was quite stumped, like, why did it come in this box, yet it says Electroman, and it's obviously like a box that it would have got shipped in. Is it some kind of display only version of the figure that's not supposed to work or something like that, and it's just to put on the shop shelf and it would come in one of these boxes? But I spoke to Brian and I spoke to Chance, and they both told me that this is a shipper box that would come from a wish book. So back in the day in American shops like Sears and JC Penney's, you would have a wish book where you ordered a figure, and sometimes it would come in a box like this. In fact, Brian said that he were going to take that code and he could actually find the exact store that this would have came from, which I'm looking forward to finding out, but he says it'll take a while, so I'm not going to be able to tell you that information here on today's episode. But it coming in one of these boxes, which I've also found out some people want to collect these more than even more than the actual box that it was supposed to come in with the graphics on. So that's also really interesting that this is really sought after itself. But the fact it came in one of these shipper boxes and the figure is so immaculate, I thought there must be like a loose wire inside or something, and that's why it's not working. So I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart and then get it working so I can show it on the video. But then I thought I might as well actually film the whole process of me opening it up and having a look inside and figuring out what could be wrong with it and putting that all in the video as well. And then as I was looking around my house, I thought I've got so many different random robots and games consoles and stuff that all need a bit of looking at and working out why they don't work anymore. Some of them I've got and put them on the shelf and never even put batteries in to test them. So I thought, why not kill two birds with one stone or several birds with one stone? And while I've got my tools out and I'm looking into this thing, get a few figures out, just pulling them out at random because I've got stuff all over my house that need looking at. I could do a whole series on fixing old robots and toys and games and stuff like that. But I thought I'll grab some at random, I'll get them out, and I'll have a look at getting them all working and make a bit of an episode out of it into itself. So I'm going to save this guy until last. But I've also got some other cool stuff that I'm going to get out and look into, and you can join me on this little experimental mission that I'm going to do with all these old toys. I also want to make it very clear as well that I'm in no way any kind of electronics expert, like no way. I'm fucking shit at it. It's something that I've never been able to get my head around. I would love to be better at electronics and stuff like that, and I'm always slowly trying to learn little bits and pieces, but it's way over my head. When you've got like such a creative, scatty brain, that like techie electronic stuff seems like a whole different side of a brain that I just have never been able to tap into. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to pull some toys out and you can see what I pull out as we go through the video. Enjoy! So the first thing I'm going to try and work on is this old Tomatronic Tron handheld game console from 1981. This was kindly donated to me by one of my Slime Alliance gangs, so first off, shouts to that guy, you know who you are. And side note, if you've ever got anything that you want to pass me for the channel, put into my collection, or you want to see it featured on a Slimehouse episode, then you can hit me up at Theo_Kane_Slimehouse, and I'll give you an address that you can post to. It's not my address, I'm not a fucking madman, but there is an address I can give you so you can send me stuff if there's anything that you want to pass me. Now this thing actually looks like it's in really good condition. Hopefully it's just a case of putting some batteries inside it and it works. I can see that this little flap here is broken. The little catch that locks has been like crushed and it's a bit deformed, so we can also look at fixing that as well. And this is my big box of batteries. Look, it's got all types of batteries in here. Double A's, triple A's, quadruple A's, class A's, all that good shit. And check these batteries. These are the two that I used when I got the Gargon working, which was only a couple of years ago. And look how corroded they are already. They've got battery acid melted all over them. And it was only a few years ago when I did that video getting that Gargon working that I used them. So it just goes to show you, never leave these things inside your toys because they will fuck them up. So it looks like this thing takes 4 of these big bastards. Now this is a toy from a time where everything needed like 100 fucking batteries to work. If you wanted to listen to music on the go, you had to put about 10 of these inside your boombox. Boom, and that's what we want. Off to a great start. This thing literally just needed some new batteries inside it. And I love these old things. This old light panel technology, it's really fun to play. And this console's got 4 different games on it. So even all these years later, it's still super playable. Fuck my life. Okay, let's get this catch fixed. Like I said, it's a little bit bent out of shape, so hopefully if I hit it with my heat gun, I can just prise it back into position. I don't want to hear no comments about how suspect my heat gun looks. I got it given me for free. It works. I'm happy. Yeah, look at that catch there. It's actually broken. Like I said, it's deformed, it's warped. There's no way that I'm ever going to get this looking back to how it did when it was in the shop, but I can at least bend it back, hopefully, and get it working so that it does, in fact, lock, and the batteries aren't going to fall out when you're trying to play the thing. Here we go, it's moving. It's fucking hot as well, so I don't want to stick it to my glove, but if I could just prise that back there, that should do it. Pow! Nice one. Nice one. That's what we want. Like I said, not as good as it could have been when it came out of the shop, but it holds into place, and that's the important thing. It's functional. So, 1-0. We're 1 up so far. So next up to have a look at, I've got these old handheld games by Pop Game. These came out in the early 80s, and I got these years ago at a vintage centre, like 7 years ago. Somebody brought them me and given me, and I just threw them in my bag, and I've probably never even really looked at them since. I've just left them on my shelf as a nice little space filler. But I always really like this one. Look, Jaws. Something tells me that this is not an official Universal Studios release, but it's back in the day when they used to put Jaws on everything, because back then Jaws was fucking popping. And instantly I can see that this thing's got corroded metal on the inside of where the battery's supposed to go. So I can pretty much guarantee this one's not going to work, but we'll try it anyway. Let's have a look. Let's see. yeah, as I suspected, it don't fucking work. Fucked. Let's have a look at this one. Now, this one takes 2 batteries, so this might have a little bit of sound. Sky Invaders. Check that. Looks like some Vietnam shit. Now, bear in mind, these use that weird calculator kind of technology that them old Tiger games used to use, so they really never work that fucking good anyway, but let's see. Hey, there we go. Firing up. Got a bit of sound. I was going to say we've got a bit of movement, but we really haven't. So it looks like the sound works a little bit. It does turn on, but none of the buttons really do anything. I could also mess around with the time, because sometimes you've got to set the time first before you can actually do any of the functions that the game is supposed to do. But let's just say that it half works. So far we've got one that works, one that doesn't work, and one that half works. So far we've got 1.5 that works. We're kind of winning so far. Okay, let's get into some robot action. Now, I love these robots. These have been sold from the early 60s all the way to the late 80s in various different forms. My favourite are these plastic ones. I'm a plastic robot guy. I've got them in a few different colours, and I have managed to get them working in the past. This particular one here, this blue one, I got from my friend Scott over at Scott's Comics and Collectibles. But they do come in lots of different colours, and I've got a few that work and a few that don't work. These things are also sold under lots of different names. This particular one that I got off Scott is called Monster Robot. But out of all of the vintage robots I've got, this is probably my favourite design. And although I've got a few of them today, I'm going to particularly take a look at this black one with the horns, because this is the rarer one out of this particular era of these robots, and this is my favourite. He's also supposed to come with like a silver cool space battle axe, which mine doesn't have. They don't all have them, but this particular one with the horns is supposed to come with one. So again, hit me up on Instagram if you've got a spare one in your collection that you're trying to get rid of. I like my shit complete, so I don't mind buying that off you if you've got a spare one. So what's annoying about this is I can undo some of these screws, but then some of the others, my screwdriver's not long enough to get in the little hole. It just catches. And I love this little screwdriver set. I've had it years. It's really handy. I use it all the time. But I'm going to have to order some longer screwdrivers because this one's catching. I'm going to have to stick a bit of blue tack in the head of the screwdriver and then push the head in just to be able to get into the little hole that I need to get into. It just elongates the screwdriver head ever so slightly. I wouldn't recommend it, but I haven't got a longer screwdriver, so I'm just doing what I need to do to get this shit sorted. And I bought this thing fucking years ago off eBay, and at the time it did work. I remember it working, but it just doesn't work anymore. You put batteries in and it just doesn't work, so let me just carefully pull this thing apart. I don't want to lose all the... Fuck's sake. That's what I didn't want to happen. I didn't want to lose all the little pieces. Oh, it should be okay. Right, let's have a look what we're dealing with. Oh, okay, so the lights have now decided to work. They didn't work before when it was screwed together, but now it feels like it wants to work. Okay, they're a little bit temperamental, but they are coming on. So maybe it's just a bit of loose wire or a bit of dust in there or something. You see, because these are so old and because they were made so cheap and sold so cheap from little shitty shops, that they weren't really meant to stand the test of time anyway, so it's a miracle that it even comes on at all. But looking inside it, it's really nice and neat. It's tidy. There's no rust. There's no battery acid leaked in it. There's no corrosion or anything like that that you'd be looking out for that would make one of these normally not work. It might literally just be something that's just not quite connecting. Hey, there we go. Look at that. There we go. It's working. It is alive. So I hope that just stays working now. Like I said, it did used to work years ago. It must have just slightly got knocked or something, but yeah, seems to work. Hopefully we've got a fully functioning robot dinosaur space invader monster robot. And I'm shook at this little spinning disc. Look, it's like a fucking buzzsaw. Some Robot Wars shit. Ruthless! So hopefully now I've just got to hope that when I put it back together it doesn't stop working. Knowing my fucking luck, I'll put all this shit back and then it'll just not work anymore. So I just got to give it a little clean with the airbrush, give it a little blast inside, make sure there's no dust, anything that's going to make it fuck up in the future. And these little flaps on the head can be annoying to put together. Almost feel like you need two people to do it, like one to hold him in place and the other one to snap him together, but I'll manage. Got to stick my blue tack back in my screwdriver just to be able to put him back together. But it's one of them, if it works, it fucking works, doesn't it? What do you want? And I'm just giving him a nice little dustpan with a brush. I recommend one of your girlfriend's makeup brushes or one of your boyfriend's makeup brushes. We don't judge here on Slimehouse TV. You wear that makeup, brother. And I'm not going to try and get it all off because I've not got all day. I'm trying to get through these pretty quick. But just get the bulk off. Just get it looking nice back on the shelf. 3, 2, 1. Pow! Yes! Look at this fucking guy. My G! Working nice. He don't walk forward very well. He kind of walks on the spot. Check these guys! So another one down. Another toy fixed. I'll have to get to the blue one at some point. Like I said, he's not working. I also need to find a replacement eye for him, bless him, because he's got one of his little eyes missing. But yeah, that's a project for another day. Like I said earlier as well, I have fixed these things before, and my electronics knowledge is very limited, which is probably for the best with these things, because sometimes you can obviously just open them up, look at them, and they start working again. Right, next up I want to have a look at this guy, the TV robot. Now, this thing looks fucking awesome. I love the little horns on his head. I picked this up years ago in a haul of vintage robots. I have put batteries in him and attempted to switch him on, but it doesn't work, and I don't know why, so I'm looking forward to having a look inside him. But I love this guy's style. Check them fucking blue saber-tooth feet. I would fully rock them if they were high-top trainers. So what this guy would do back in the day when he was working is he would march forward, there was some lights and sounds going on, and then he had this screen in his chest which would project images and give you the illusion that he's got a telly inside him. Looks like I got to do the old blue tack trick again just to get inside his head. What is it about these old 80s robots being made with screw holes that I can actually get my screwdriver in that's so goddamn taboo? Okay, hopefully he don't explode this time. I'm trying to be careful. Because if this shit spills out, I've got no idea how I'll put it back together. Okay, wicked. This little clear cylinder inside is the thing that spins and gives the illusion that there's a TV inside his chest, and there's some dope graphics on there. I really wish that I could get this working, but I'm looking at it and I can see rust on the motor, and that's not a good sign. You see, if there was a wire that was loose that needed soldering back, I could do that. I could clean bits up and dust it and put stuff back together that had fallen out of place, but I'm looking at a motor that's rusty. For all I know, this needs a whole new motor, and that's just something that I can't do. That's well out of my skill set. And also I'm looking here and I can see that the little switch that turns it on and off is also rusted. So I'm going to have to give this one a swerve. Give it up as a bad job. This needs looking at by somebody that's way more skilled than I am. The good thing I can take away from this though is that in future, if I ever want to get it fixed, I kind of know what's up with it, so I can tell them, look, it's rusted inside. That's why it's not working. It needs a new motor. The switch is rusted, but that's all way out of my skill set. So the best thing that I can probably do with this toy is try and remember how to put it together and put it back on my shelf where it's been for the last 10 years or something. Because I'll always love it either way. I think it's awesome. I love the design of this thing and it always looks nice on my shelf. So let's just accept that this one is a failure. This one's not going to work. We've got one robot that works and one that doesn't. One that's fixed and one that's fucked. Right, so the last thing that I want to have a look at before I move on to the Electroman is this old Mario Brothers Game & Watch from 1983. And this was donated to me by the same guy that gave me the Tron handheld game console. So hopefully this works as well as that one did. So this is another one of them that takes 2 batteries. It's another 2. And what I'm seeing straight away is that the connectors are nice and clean. So I'm feeling really optimistic about this one. This one's giving me good vibes. Chickadee, check it out. As you can see, this one's working as expected, like a fucking dream. And as I said with the other ones that we looked at earlier, the little handheld game consoles, this little weird calculator technology never works that good, but the buttons on this thing are very responsive. You can see Mario and Luigi moving up and down, passing those little girders to each other or whatever they are that they load on the back of the truck there. I always prefer that light technology when it comes to these old handheld games, but The ones in this style are definitely a classic, and this one was nice because you could play it with your brother or your sister when you were on long car journeys, or with your friend in the schoolyard and that kind of thing. So it's just nice to have one that's fully operational. So let's look at what we're working with so far. We've got a working Tron console, we've got a Jaws game that's knackered, a Sky Invader that's half working, we've got a robot dinosaur that's roaring, a TV robot that's on fucking standby, and this little Game & Watch which seems to work mint. So overall, not a bad little result for a bunch of toys that were just lying around my house doing nothing. So I don't know about you, but I think it's time we tackle this Electroman. Okay, this is the reason why we're here today, and let's not forget, this thing's from 1977, so the fact that it still exists and it's this immaculate, very much like the dinosaur, it's a miracle in itself. So if it's not operational, it doesn't matter. It would be nice to have him working, but it's not the end of the world. Now, I have tried to put batteries in this thing and get it working. It didn't work, but look what happened with the dinosaur earlier. Sometimes these things can just start working randomly, so let's just try the batteries again and see what we're working with. Okay, yeah, so this guy definitely doesn't want to work, so we're going to have to open him up, delve a little bit deeper, and see what we're dealing with on the inside. Hopefully it's just a loose wire and something that we can physically see and fix pretty easy, but you never know. We've got to get inside him to have a proper look. Luckily, don't need no blue tack to get inside this guy. And obviously, of course, I'm being very careful. I fucking love this figure. I would never want to damage it or anything like that. I'm just opening him up so I can try and fix the fucking dude. So it seems like all these circuitry and wires are all in this half of the shell, so we'll get rid of that bit. I'll put these screws somewhere safe because I don't want to be losing them, and then I can have a proper look at what we're dealing with. And you know what? As predicted, as expected, inside him is fucking immaculate. There's not a mark on him. There's no dents in the speaker. There's no rust. There's no corrosion. There's no battery acid leaking. Nothing looks like it's come apart. Nothing's dirty. Nothing's broken. Look at this bulb. You can even see that the tiny little filament inside the bulb is not popped or anything like that. Sometimes they can still not work, but it's in very good condition. It would only take one of these things to not work, the speaker to not work, the light bulb to not work, to fuck up the entire circuit so that the electrical current couldn't pass through it, but everything looks so neat and brand new. I don't really know what to say. So this little screw undoes this bit of circuitry here, but you can't actually pull it out because the peg that you turn the little dial is actually glued into place. So without snapping it, without breaking it and taking it apart, I couldn't get to this bit of circuitry. But again, it looks very clean from what I can see. I'm going to have to speak to my mate Ian. So Ian is the guy that built my little robot for Unit 11. He's like an electrics expert. He knows how to build circuits and robots. He even built something for that Jed Shepherd Ghosts PlayStation game that I was first ADing down in London last year. And if he can't fix this, then nobody can. So I'm going to give him a ring and see what he says. So I just got off the phone to Robot Man Ian. I sent him some photographs and he is also a little bit baffled. He said the only thing that he could do without looking at it there in person is advise me to clean the circuits and make sure that everything is connected properly and the little dial that scrapes along the circuit board isn't being stopped by any dirt or grime or anything like that. So I don't have any actual circuit cleaner. I'm just going to use a bit of IPA. And hoping that if I screw it all together, it'll by some miracle work. But I don't have very high hopes, and it might just be one of those things that just isn't meant to be. Also, with it coming in that shipper box, it kind of makes me think that this has probably never even really been played with. Maybe it's just a dud, maybe it's a display model, maybe it never worked. But if you take a real close look around the light bulb that's in his head, there's ever so slight browning, which means that at some point this light did turn on because it baked that little tiny bit of silver around it. So at some point this did work, at some point that light bulb was lit up. Either way though, I'm not very optimistic because like I said, I have put batteries in this several times. Inside it is very immaculate, and if there's anything broke inside that little circuit, the speaker, the bulb, anything like that, it's all going to make it so that the circuit's not complete and it's not going to work. But it's all stuff that's out of my wheelhouse because I've got no way of testing any of it. Also, look at this cotton bud that I've cleaned it with. You can see there's hardly a mark on it. This is how clean this thing is. So all that's left to do now is screw it back together, put the batteries in, say a prayer to the god of toys and hope that this thing just works. But like I said, I've not got much faith in it working. Not with the very limited shit that I've just done to it. Oh man, Looks like he just doesn't want to play today. And that's cool. As I said before, I even started taking this guy apart. This Electroman came out in 1977. The fact that I've got one in such beautiful condition as it is an absolute blessing in itself. It's a shame I couldn't get it working for you because I wanted to show you how cool it is when it's doing its thing. But let's face it, it doesn't take anything away from the toy. It looks super wicked displayed on the shelf. I feel super lucky to have one. And I was actually really surprised when my dad brought me all this stuff and this guy was in it. It's also been a good little session for fixing up some other toys that wouldn't have got the attention otherwise. And I've had a lot of fun tinkering with them and taking them all apart, so I hope you've enjoyed this video too. So unfortunately, it looks like this guy is just destined to not work, at least for now. Like I said, I spoke to my friend who is like really good at electronics and stuff like that, and he's done lots of things for me in the past, and he gave me a few suggestions. And also, if I took it to him or I took it to an electronics shop, I probably could get it working, but I just don't want to do that. I don't want to risk sending this off and it getting broken or lost or anything like that, so I'm just going to keep him as he is, and he will be displayed on my shelf either way, whether he works or not, and I will love him either way because it's just such a fucking dope figure. And some of this stuff, especially toys from the 70s and things like that, they shouldn't even still be here. They shouldn't still be here. The fact that they stood the test of time this long and are still there in such pristine condition is such a miracle, because I've said this lots of times on this show, but toys are very disposable. They're created for kids to play with and throw around and smash up and bash against each other and then get thrown in the garbage or lost or broken or whatever, but they're not still supposed to be here in this pristine condition anyway, so the fact that it still exists is a miracle. So yeah, I'm going to display him on my shelf either way. We probably will never get him working, but it doesn't matter. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If this is your first time here at Slimehouse TV, I'm Theo Kane. I drop videos every week, so make sure you give this video a like and go back and binge the back catalogue and drop me a subscribe if you haven't already, if you like what you see in this video, because there's plenty of other stuff that I've done in the past that you'll also enjoy as well. I would love to know your thoughts on this video in the comments below, so let me know down below if you enjoyed this video. If there's anything that you saw in there that you think you could have probably got working with a little bit of extra advice, I would really appreciate that as well. The comments on videos really do help the algorithm, and they really do like help push videos forward, so even if you want to just drop me some flame emojis, I'm all about that, and I really do appreciate it. You can also get at me on Instagram at Theo_Kane_Slimehouse if you want to drop me a direct message, if you don't want to comment down below, but you want to hit me up and holler me for anything, then just get at me on there. I'm really active on my social media, and feel free to tag me in any of your posts. Tag me in your toy room, tag me in your latest toy haul, anything like that. I love Instagram, and I drop a lot of stuff on there that I don't put over here on YouTube as well, so get at me on Instagram if you're also about that life. Like I said at the start of this video, I'm also on Patreon. I have a tier on there called the Slime Alliance, when you can get access to videos in advance and some other exclusive stuff as well. And in the meantime, I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, and I will catch you in the next video. Until then, I'm gone. Pow!